society with the help of Canada. What are these coup d'etats for? We should ask ourselves. And these war interventions, they are there to support the reactionary regimes that have no respect for human rights whatsoever. In fact, the imperialists take advantage of the lack of democracy and freedom in these countries. So, in the name of democracy and with the crocodile tears for human rights, they wage their wars on people, the people, and they call it humanitarian intervention. This is the response to the people who want freedom, who want social justice, who are fighting the despotism. Their fight and movement is supposed to be stopped, to be pushed back by bringing another type of dictators to the power. Look what happened in Libya. They supported the primitive gang when they were not happy with Gaddafi, who was in bed with them 3 months before ousting. Look what's happening in Syria again. Syria, they are arming Al-Qaeda in Syria against people who are fed with Assad-Bashir regime. Look who is meeting with Taliban these days. Again, Taliban who has no respect for human rights, especially women's rights. Imperialists installing theocratic regimes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran. That's the plan, which we already have one. And in the name of democracy, as soon as they install the regime in Iraq, the new anti-woman law, family law, takes place, which was implemented under the eyes of U.S. soldiers. In Afghanistan, you know that about 2 weeks ago, the Karzai government approved the verdict proposed by Cleric Council, acknowledging that the woman is the second-class citizen in Afghanistan, and the women are not allowed to go out with a strange man. That means no employment, no schooling, no university, no social activities for women in Afghanistan under NATO's watch. Hey. We are inspired by Arab Spring. U.S. imperialists is still arming, providing military help, military aid to Egypt, undermining the struggles that is happening in Egypt. The claim for human rights means nothing but justifying the intervention and robbing people. Stop the justifications. Let people decide what is good for them when what they want. The Iraq war outcomes were destruction of the country's infrastructures and countless civilian casualties. Dislocations of people of Iraq and plunder of the natural resources of Iraq. The war on Iran is the same, and in addition, it will result the strengthening of the Islamic Republic of Iran and more suppression of the movement for freedom, equality, social justice that is happening within Iran now. Therefore, any level of military intervention by imperialist powers under any pretense should be condemned and stopped right away. There were sanctions on Iraq for many years, which resulted in 1,000 deaths and more miseries in Iraq. Now, they are trying to put sanctions on Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran that claims that these sanctions help them to improve its self-sufficiency. They claim this is a good luck and blessing for them. But in reality, any sanctions on Iran would impact people's lives within Iran. It would escalate the prices of goods and services. It would cut the government services and increase the unemployment, poverty, prostitution, and child labor, and other miseries in Iran. That's why any kind of sanctions, selective, paralyzing, smart, or otherwise, should be strongly condemned and stopped. The second point, as an Iranian woman activist who escaped the head of sexual apartheid regime in Iran, I want to share with you what Malala Yousafzai taught me. She was saying, everybody knows Malala Yousafzai. She was saying that when she was asked, why you are calling for troops out of Afghanistan? One of her responses is that because it makes it harder for people of Afghanistan to fight against internal and external enemies. She said, we will be squashed between many enemies, between Taliban, US imperialists, and Karzai puppet regime. There was another lesson from her as well. She said, the enemy of your enemy is not your friend. That means whoever is fighting against America and says down with America, it doesn't mean that those people are anti-imperialists and share the same value what you believe. There is a difference between this. Many Iranians believe in peace, believe that peace is a social justice issue, and it will achieve only when basic needs of the people are met. And definitely, you cannot achieve it under dictatorship. Iranians are paying very high price to this belief.
Okay.
When I'm talking about Iranians, I mean workers who are fighting for right of unions, right of organization, right of freedom of speech, and they end up to the jail. When I'm talking about Iranians, I'm talking about women who are fighting on the street every day against discriminatory laws, against the sexual apartheid in Iran. When I'm talking about Iranians, I mean the students who are fighting against universities become graveyard of the revolutionary guards, who are fighting that universities become military bases. When I'm talking about Iranians, I'm talking about people who are struggling to bring food to the table for their children. I'm talking about the ordinary people who want a better life, peace and prosperity, but lack social justice within the country. People who believe all revenue from the oil should put back to the well-being of the people, of their children, and not to the militarism. People who oppose world monetary bank policy that is implemented in Iran. People who believe in a nuclear-free world. Iranians has not forgotten the consequences of 8 years' war with Iraq. Still, after over 20 years, many of them are dislocated from their cities. They have not forgotten that US imperialists sold weapons to Iran and Iraq both to fight with each other, while they were watching them and making profit of selling weapons. That's why we do not want another war on Iran. Friends, believe me, one of the important aspects that Mr. Harper, Mr. Obama shares with Iranian government is militarism. central threat in the societies of the world, whether Canada, USA, Iran, Europe, anywhere. One of the most central issue is the militarism as well in the societies. I ask you, $100 billion military spending costs, and wasting money on buying weapons and implementing nuclear policies creates security for the people around the world? Our capitalism system and dictators regime around the world able to create security for us for 99% at all? It is interesting that many Iranians enter into Canada. They hear that Canada is a peacekeeper, and with the hope that they face peace in this country. They go to the street. They see the people are sleeping on the street. They see that people are lining up beside food banks. They hear the stories of First Nations. They hear what's happening in reality in Canada. Right away, they notice that there is no social justice in Canada as well. And after 3 years, when they are going to become a citizen, in the ceremony, in the citizenship ceremony, there is one speaker from military service to convince them that one of the biggest things they need to do here in Canada is to go for military service. This is the way they're recruiting from new immigrants in Canada. But what I'm sharing with you is not just what Iranians feel when they enter into Canada. This is the story of many immigrants who come to Canada and then who become a social activist themselves, like me, that I'm sharing with you now. The last point that I would like to make is how we can build a stronger anti-war movement and peace movement. And who are our allies and who are our enemies? Friends, we need to know who are our enemies, who are our friends as well. We need to fight back our enemies together and collectively. And we need to support each other when we are fighting unjust on the street, in our workplaces, in our factories, in our hospitals, in our schools, when we are fighting militarism, when we are fighting despotism, when we are demanding basic human rights, especially for those people who are living under a medieval sexual apartheid, like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran. We need to echo each other's voices when we demand freedom of speech, freedom for all political prisoners, when we need to support the resistance against despotism, whether in Iran, Syria, and also support the resistance movement in Palestine against occupation. This is the way that we can build a strong movement, because no justice, no peace. We are the 99% who do not buy any of these lies I mentioned before, and do not fall for the plans that imperialists and dictators have for us. We are aware of their tricks. We also know that they are trying to divide us, even in the anti-war movement and peace movements. We should show them that we are the 99% who strongly believe in peace and prosperity. That's why we are occupying the streets. That's why we are asking for troops home. That's why we want to get rid of capitalism and dictators that are the sources of the war and occupation. If we manage to get rid of the capitalism in the world and are able to control our destiny of our lives and achieve people's power, we will not see any war anywhere at any time. Yeah. solution to the disaster of war and occupation is the revolution. The only phenomena can stop war and occupation is revolution, whether in Canada, or Iran, or Syria, or any other countries. So, no justice, no peace. We say stop waging war on people of Iran, no war on Iran, hands up people of Iran for peace, freedom, and equality. Thank you.